Hiya. The theme of today's one is hitting the prodigals, not the right heart posture. Even though my previous ex wasn't a believer in Christ, there were Christ-like seeds planted in his household. I was shown a sunflower in a yard that looked exactly like his mother's house. The Lord showed me that he had met a girl after me and dabbled in witchcraft, and would put hexes on me, in particular over my reproductive organs, and meeting someone new, and that he'd been trapped with her, or under her spell, kind of thing, and he was being held obviously by sex. There are many similarities between him and my kingdom spouse, such as affairs, cold and calculated towards women, selfish and non-committing. This is all part of the process of why God's bringing them back. I'm currently going through a horrible period with my kingdom spouse, where for the second time he has been warned to stay away from his previous ex, who is a fully active witch and practices witchcraft on us. He was brought away from certain people a year and a half ago, from the gay scene, S&M scene and all sorts of stuff. He kept going back and forth between different lovers, even though these people wasn't doing him any good, because he wanted to test how far he wanted to go with grace. He had disbelief in that I was his kingdom spouse, and would dabble with forms of... I'll do it again. He kept going back and forth between different lovers, even though these people wasn't doing him any good, because he wanted to test how far he wanted to go with grace, and he had a disbelief that I was his kingdom spouse, and he would dabble with a form of spiritual projection to bring other women into the network and the helm, and in the physical realm too. He was playing about with other women. He caught me up in the spiritual network and realm because he wanted me for lust purposes. I thought when I became aware of him, he was sent from God, and I was led to videos about kingdom spouses, which I believe has turned out the right answer, as God has turned this captive situation, with me being in a kind of prison along with him, into something good and for something purposeful. He, as I said before, had problems penetrating women, as he couldn't keep an erection due to the trauma of being abused as a child and beyond. Currently, he is going through a terror judgment season, and he's been handed over to his lusts, because he keeps forgoing the promise, and just keeps doing his own thing. He wanted to start telling the real side of men that have hurt me. So, even though he's a bit of a cad, he likes to talk to me about the way real men's natures are, and points things out in my nature, such as being dependent on approval with men, and just getting really messed over with your mind. So some good is coming out of it, but it's painful. And recently he's been messing about with a lot of women, and it's not very nice, because I can feel it on board. Yesterday he took great pleasure with his counterfeit ex to make love and describe every detail to me whilst I was out shopping down with my daughter, and it took me all my time to concentrate, as I was hearing him mocking me in my head, and then I could feel sexual heat in my body, so that I knew that they were at it. And he was also insulting her, because he was watching my video about the men, the way they mess you over and stuff like that. So he was trying to do her a favour, along with telling me exactly how he feels and what a bastard he is. Kind of highlighting the fact that this is the way some men are, including himself. So it was kind of trying to do us a favour by, you know, like if we indulge with these kind of guys that they're going to burn you, like what I had. So I could feel sexual heat in my body, and him bodging me in the regions later on, as he was showing who he really was to me and his ex, telling me how he was enjoying it moment by moment and what she was doing to him, and him finally getting an erection and penetrating her, which really hurt because I was getting visions of being his first because he'd been abused, and it hurt. I was looking forward to being technically his first to make love to him in that traditional way. I thought that God was actually saving him for me, but turned out not. When we were brought together, but she, the witch, stole that from me to her great delight. I died inside 1,000 times, as you can see, and now I have to put up with him making love to her all night long, but apparently he's ditched her now. Or she ditched him, one of the two. But God revealed later to me on Facebook a post about soul-tie demons, which I warned him about several times previously over the previous days, when he was messing recently with a local girl in my region. But he carried on saying he wants to test God's grace and didn't have any desire on giving up on the affairs with other women. Last night I was being hurt in the helm with my head feeling heavy and my stomach being crushed, but only to point of severe uncomfortableness. So I've been lifting my head over the last few months, and the pressure on my head has been pretty tough. I couldn't go to sleep because he was making love to her and I could feel this intense heat, but it actually felt like demonic kind of sexual heat, burning, magnetic, dark, energy draining, sacrificial, almost like the feeling of a slaughterhouse, kind of cruel. Reminded me of the scene in that War of the Worlds film where the tripods are crushing the victims like a lamb to the slaughter, a demonic slaughter. So that's what it felt like. But he claims that he enjoyed it, that kind of torture, because of his past, and he's been involved in this sort of crossover witchcraft and sex stuff that God's been bringing him away, and he's gone back and forth and hasn't properly come away from it. There was a point where I had a vision of a demonic scene where it's shaking the bed. I don't know if it was them that were in it or someone else. Then I was trying to get to sleep completely dumbfounded and a bit scared. I felt awful because I knew he was suffering, like he was being factory raped by succubus and rebus. That's what it felt like to me. He was shaking and wanted to hold my hand and wanted me to put my head on his shoulder, so I mentally projected onto my jumper where I stuffed a pillow inside it in the arms and held him, and he was a bit more calmer. He said he felt like he was being led back to calm waters again, but I was breathing a kind of sulphur because like I'm being attacked by the hound that much that it feels like your insides are on fire, and it kind of puts him off, like in this spiritual realm. Eventually, shaken up, I fell asleep where they made love, apparently S&M style. He he's between two worlds, a dark world of excitement and risk. He considers my world boring. I'm too clean, no pornography, no masturbation, no kinky pursuits, just regular Cinderella. But apparently God says that we're a perfect match, and I do have a bit of a slightly kinky past, but whether I've been drawn well away from that now, and it wasn't too much to write home about anyway. Even though my prodigal has put me through hell, I am grateful he is revealing who he is. So in one way, something good came out of the honesty, and I have to be realistic that he ain't fully away from who he is, because he refuses to change, but he's going to have no choice soon, because God will keep putting him under his wrath, or he's on the last warning, from what I understand. But yeah, and God is revealing things about my nature anyway under these massive trials that even I know about and he knows about. So I've got that. Faith. My prodigal is a believer but struggles putting his words into actions, whereas I'm the other way round, where I actually put my actions into words. I mean, okay, faith. My prodigal is a believer but struggles putting his words into actions, where I put my actions. I don't know. He goes with what he comes easiest. He knows equally as much of the Bible as I do. We cover each other, even when we cross with each other, reminding each other of the word in times of need. Because I sometimes I can be fleshy based, and like he can put a spiritual word in my system, and like, oh yeah, you know, revealing my character. God's during this time, especially this week, has been revealing my value to both me and him. I've had a lot of prophetic information as seen on my channel recently. The suffering I've had has been covering him in Jesus Christ, which includes the mental and emotional abuse, and can recognise through my discernment how to navigate through this mental wilderness with my kingdom spouse, and mental deception. And also he's bringing out a gathering of similar-minded people who are lifting me up with opportunities of performing. I'm also doing a video and an album for a local community centre as well, which has been shown to be growing and fruitful. And before that was nothing I ever did led anywhere, and I was pretty much hidden. Didn't have any friends and very isolated. I asked God what is love on his behalf, because he's been asking, because he doesn't understand that kind of love, but because of this crushing that God's doing with me, he's showing him under massive pressure who I am. And I asked God what is love, and he says it's self-sacrifice, a living sacrifice in his name, a demonstration how Christ hurts. My grace is sufficient, as in the Bible verse. He says they want you to join the coven at the end, and I says F off and I says you got us into this mess, so you'll have to think of a way out. And he did. And I had all sorts of weird faces when I was going off to sleep as well, so we was on full pelt yesterday with physical crushing, mental crushing, sexual crushing, and emotional crushing, and it was hell. I hope today I don't have that again. Thank you. God bless.